And on standby, we have Barrister Abdulqadir Alhaji Sanni, the General Secretary, Nigerian Law Society, to talk about the Supreme Court judgments, particularly in Kano State. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, what's your reaction to the judgment of the Supreme Court in Kano governorship elections today?
Well, it is very simple. The Supreme Court has clearly shown it stands at the apex court in the land. And not only that, it also goes to show that the Supreme Court has imbibed the doctrine of stare decisis, which means judicial precedent. If you look at the judgment that was delivered today, you come to realize that indeed Supreme Court has really maintained that particular stand as the most intellectual, most intelligent, and with those wisdom to look at what has been done below and said, well, this has been done wrongly, and this is what is done rightly. I think this has come to lighten up the hope of common man. If you get to look at the scenario in Kano today, it's as good as having a new year in the mid of January. Celebration all over, but prior to this moment, you will come, you are under serious tension. People are afraid. Our wards could not go to school. Offices are shut down because everyone is apprehensive of what may be the consequence of what the Supreme Court is going to pronounce. But as I'm talking to you now, everyone is celebrating, and indeed, it has really shown that Supreme Court is still maintaining, is still the last hope of the common man as an apex court.
Okay, one of the premises upon which the apex court judges based their ruling in the Kano verdict was that the ballot papers, which were earlier declared invalid for not being signed or stamped, were duly signed and stamped, just that they did not contain any date. Does that not call for concern, as dating such documents is very important?
Well, you see, I can tell you that even before the election, come in place, the drafter of the law have anticipated the likelihood scenario where you have a situation where an electorate will go to the polling station, maybe because of the crowd. You may find situation where some of the ballot papers are not signed or not stamped. If you look at the provision of the Electoral Act, it provided that notwithstanding that these ballot papers are not signed or not dated, provided it comes from the ballot, from the booklet, and to the satisfaction of the presiding officer, those votes must be counted. And that is exactly, you see, the question the Supreme Court asked during the hearing of these appeals. This particular 165 vote, 165,000, and then I think 616 or so, are they smuggled votes, or they are part of the votes cast at the polling stations? And it was answered in the affirmative that indeed they were votes cast by people. So you see, you cannot exclude votes on the basis of the fact that they were not signed, even when the law itself has redressed that particular segment of the argument. So I think the Supreme Court has done the right thing, even though the Supreme Court did say that by law, Electoral Act, the trial court can of course invalidate certain votes. But the point remains that are those the fault of Abba Yusuf as a contestant for NMPP? It is not. And you see, what the Supreme Court has done is to look at the laws holistically, and it has set a precedent now that even when you have certain ballot papers, assuming not considering that they were not signed, even if you have them in that manner, you can use them, provided they are from the booklet. The law is there, it provides for all of this. But you
okay,
see,
so
what
will be your call? Finally, before I let you go, what will be your call to the apex courts on the remaining judgments from other states?
Well, you see, what I can just say in a nutshell is that indeed the Supreme Court has done the right thing. I was on the media chat, one of the television stations, and I said the Supreme Court would do justice to that sin. Because you see, as the last hope of the common man, if it gets to a point that the whole Nigerians who are watching are losing hope in the judiciary, I think it is a signal that the Supreme Court would maintain that particular standard it has always, kept, and then by its doctrine, a long standing of the, judgment of the court has said that some of the issue pronounced upon one, you call pre-election matters, and then the issue of ballot papers. Today, Supreme Court has put everything to rest, and I think the hope of every Nigerian is high now. And everybody can, walk to Supreme Court and say, no, we will get justice no matter what the lower court has pronounced on.
Thank you very much for sharing your opinion with us on the news.
Thank you very much.
And that was Barrister Abdulqadir Alhaji Sanni, the General Secretary, Nigerian Law Society, NLS.